Hey, yo, trying to see the studio? You got 20 bucks? Give it here. Follow me. All right. We got to be fast and quiet. Sun Studio, where rock and roll started. Marion Keisker's office. Marion was kind of the unofficial business partner of Sam. It was just the two of them when they started this place. So every artist, Elvis, Carl Perkins, Howlin' Wolf, they all came through this door into this room. They met Marion here, and then they would go into the studio. So let's head on in. So this is the live room. This was originally a bakery. Sam came in the early 50s, actually 1950 to be exact, put this tile up, built this arch ceiling, wanted a live tile floor. This is where he set up, and this is where all the bands recorded, and he would be right there in that control room. Howlin' Wolf, Ike Turner, B.B. King, Little Milton, Walter Horton, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, they all recorded right here in this room. This is where rock and roll started. Sam was here about 10 years, and then he moved down to Sam Phillips Recording Service, and this place was kind of abandoned for a while. For a short time, it was even a scuba shop, which didn't last long. In the 80s, the studio reopened. U2 recorded Rattle and Hum here. That's actually the kit that they brought in for the session. Since then, it's recorded a bunch of artists. I started working here when I was about 16. I worked here about 11 years. I was also the engineer here for a long time, so I know the studio inside and out. So I can show you whatever you want. You just let me know. So December 4th, 1956, maybe the greatest picture of rock and roll history, happened right here in this room, right? This piano just like this. It's called the Million Dollar Quartet. Carl Perkins, right there in the middle, was in here cutting a song called Matchbox. He had an unknown piano player at the time, Jerry Lee Lewis, got paid 15 bucks to play piano in the session. While they're recording, out of nowhere, Elvis Presley comes through the door. Now, Elvis hadn't been on Sun for a while now. He was a movie star. He was on RCA. He came by the studio to see his friends. He brought a girl with him, Marilyn Evans. She's actually sitting on the piano. They cut her out of the photo, but that's what Jerry Lee Lewis is looking at the whole time. Sam Phillips sees all of his talent here, and he thinks, I got to call Johnny Cash, who was his next big artist at the time. He has Johnny Cash come down just for a photo for the press, but they guys start jamming. They recorded about an hour of music, mostly gospel and some Chuck Berry songs. Sam Phillips recorded the whole thing, but he couldn't do anything with it because Elvis was on RCA, so he kept it a secret until after Elvis died. It was finally released. It was called the Million Dollar Quartet. It's pretty cool. Come on. You got another 20? Well, I don't know, man. I might be out of stuff. You better pay up. You like Elvis? Sam Phillips gave this microphone to the studio after he came back in the early 2000s. This was the mic he used on all the early Elvis recordings. See the X's on the ground? Elvis Presley stood right here, and he sang That's All Right Mama. He had his back to Sam because he was so nervous, but it was done on that microphone. You want to lick it? You want to kiss it? Go ahead. I won't say nothing. All right, that's enough. This ain't a peep show we're running here. Damn. Okay, I got something else for you, since you were a good customer. Right up here, 1985. All the old guys came back to Sun. It wasn't even an open building at the time with the great Chips Moments in here. Chips Moment was the producer. They recorded an album and filmed a documentary called The Class of '85. Got Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, and Johnny Cash. Cut right here in this room. Pretty cool. Like I said, this used to be a bakery. They had no AC. You got to keep in mind, this is the early 1950s, but they did have two fans that were where these big squares are. And that was really just to get the heat out when it was a bakery, but they used it in recording. Now, this is all the original tile, just like Sam had it, except one thing Sam added was a curtain. You can see in this photo, along this wall. You can still see where the vents were up there. And that was to deaden the room. He would open and close it depending on what he was going for. You still got any cash? Venmo? Good to know. Right here, Sam Phillips, the man who started it all, grandfather of rock and roll, with one of his star artists, Jerry Lee Lewis. Now in this room, they cut a whole lot of shaking going on, Great Balls of Fire, Crazy Arms. You can see some of Sam's equipment up here. It's an Ampex 350 tape machine and a custom patch bay. Johnny Cash cut in the early 50s here, you know, the beginning of his style of country music. He was very aware that the Grand Ole Opry didn't allow drums on the Grand Ole Opry. It was too rhythm and blues for him. So Sam and Johnny Cash wanted to do something different and wanted to have some rhythm. Came up with this idea. Took a dollar bill, wove it through the guitar neck strings, and Johnny would strum it on the record like a snare. Right, this next part, you gotta be real quiet and fast. You wanna see a control room? Come on. Now keep in mind, this has changed some, but Sam Phillips did have a raised floor because he wanted to sit at the board and be eye to eye with the artists. Check this out. This is very similar to what Sam had back in the day, an RCA 76D tube recording console. Sam had 4 microphone inputs, 2 line inputs. So he could do 4 mics at a time. He had no EQ. He would record everything live to a mono Ampex tape machine like you see here. He had 2 of these. Another one he'd use for echo, kind of like you see right here. He would record to this one. The one in the rack usually would be his echo. 1 compressor, a homemade one, similar to this Gates, patch bay, and a radio. That's pretty much all he had. And he also had a Presto lathe, which they don't have here, but he would cut his own vinyl. So Sam would sit here at the desk, and he'd have 4 microphones. He'd have to mix it all by hand live to mono tape. It's pretty amazing. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if I told you, but I worked here for like 11 years. I started here when I was 16, man. I left about 2015, but to be honest with you, I was kind of the manager. I kind of ran this place. So, I mean, if you got some more money, we could track something, you know? Because I know everything about this building. I mean, everything. Did you hear something? We gotta go.